Hello everyone, welcome back to the next video in Azure Data Factory playlist. So today we are going to learn about what is parameter and how we can able to use parameters in Azure Data Factory. So let me explain what is parameters in Azure Data Factory. So basically parameters are a placeholder where you can able to use the parameters to dynamically access your pipelines, dataset or your linked service in Azure Data Factory. So what is the purpose of creating a parameter in Azure Data Factory? We can able to make the flow flexible and reusable. So you don't need to create multiple pipelines or datasets or linked service. You can just create a single dynamic dataset using this parameterization. So you can avoid hard coding the values in the dataset or a linked service. You can just create a parameter and use that to configure with your pipeline, and this allows you to pass different values to your single pipeline. Thereby you can create a single pipeline instead of creating multiple pipelines in your Azure Data Factory. So let us explain the benefits of the parameters in Azure Data Factory. So the first thing is the reusability. So you don't need to create multiple pipelines for multiple data sources. You can just create a single parameterized dataset or link to service to point to your different data sources. So it is highly scalable. So you can just scale your dataset and link to service for your task with this parameterization and easy maintainability. So with this parameterize option, you can just reduce the amount of dataset and linked service that you are going to create in your Azure Data Factory. So thereby you can easily maintain those dataset and linked service efficiently. So let us see what are the types of parameters available in Azure Data Factory. So there are three major parameters available. One is the pipeline parameter, dataset parameter, and the linked service parameter. So the hierarchy falls from the bottom to up. So the linked service parameter will be the top one, where you can just parameterize your linked service, the connection strings, which gets the data from the dataset parameters, and for the dataset parameters in turn gets the data from the pipeline parameters. So for the pipeline parameter you can pass it from the Azure Data Factory while triggering it, or you can just pass it from the execute pipeline activity. You can just understand this better while we are executing it in the Azure Data Factory. So let me first explain what is pipeline parameter. So in this pipeline parameter, you can just define a parameter in your pipeline level where you can able to pass your input while triggering the pipeline. So when this can be used, if you need to control all your flow within a parameter, you can just add a dynamic content and pass the parameter during the runtime to make the entire pipeline in a dynamic manner. So an example of using a pipeline parameter is passing a file name or a date filter for your source. Example, source file name or a execution date. So based on this you can just filter your dataset and link the service. So how to create a pipeline parameter? You can just navigate to the pipeline, and under the parameters tab you can just click on creating a new parameter and just select the desired data types. So what is the dataset parameters? So you can just create a dynamic dataset for your multiple sources. You can just create a single dataset using the dynamic option and pass the parameters that you have created for this dataset. So when it can be used, if you need to point to different tables or a different file path using a single dataset, you can just parameterize the dataset. For example, if you are going to refer to 10 tables within a same data source, then you can just parameterize the dataset and access it with a single connection. So how to create a parameterized dataset? You can just create a dataset, and under the parameters tab you can just add a parameter and you can bind it with your dataset. So what is a linked service parameter? So just like in the dataset parameters, you can just able to add a dynamic content for your linked service. So this is basically the connection string for your environments. So you can able to create a single linked service for your dev, QA and prod environments. So this might be helpful for you to maintain the connections very efficiently. So you can just provide a server name and you can access all the databases under the server with the help of parameterization. So how to create the linked service parameters? You can just add the parameters in the linked service configuration and you can just bind it with your linked service. So let us get into the Azure Data Factory to see the live demonstration how we can able to create and manage our parameters for our pipeline, linked service and datasets. Currently we are inside the Azure portal. You can just type portal.azure.com to get into this landing page. So in this you can just search for the data factories, or you can just find the data factory in the regions. You can just go to the data factories and you can select the particular data factory that you are going to use. Click on launch studio. So now we are inside the Azure data factory. So in this you can just navigate to the other tab where we can create our pipelines and datasets. So under this general, I'm going to create a new pipeline. Let us name this as pipeline parameters. And so in this I am going to use a single copy activity. So copy data from Azure SQL to ADMS as CSV files. So I have provided the name for the copy activity. So let us get into the source. So here I am going to create a new dataset. I'm going to create for Azure SQL. So let us click on this Azure SQL database. Click on continue and let me provide the name for the dataset dynamic Azure SQL product table. So I'm going to create a new linked service for this. So this is going to be a dynamic one. So let me provide the name as linked service dynamic Azure SQL. So as I'm going to use Azure SQL, let me select this self-hosted integration runtime, and in this I'm going to click enter manually and let me provide the server name. So in this database name I'm going to add a dynamic content. So before that you can just scroll down to see the parameters tab. Under this you can just click on new to create a new parameter. So let me provide the parameter name as database name. So let it be string data type. You can just see all the data types available for this parameter. So let me just provide this parameter, and once you have created parameter you can just click on the database name. So you can see the add dynamic content appearing for you. You can just click on the add dynamic content. So inside this you can see the parameters that you have created Let me click on this database name. So it will directly add the parameter to you. You can just click on OK. So I have parameterized my database name. So let me provide the username and password. So if you are going to test this connection, it will ask you to enter the database name. Let me provide the name of the database. Let me click on OK. So now the test connection is successful, and I have just created this dataset using the dynamic content for the database name. Can I add dynamic content for your server name, the username, and the password as well? So you can just parameterize everything in this link to service. You can just create multiple parameters like server name, database name, and username and password as well. So let me just keep it as database to the dynamic content, and let me just create this. So now the link to service has been created. So inside this you can just select the tables available. So let me just click on enter manually. So let us just keep it as none, and let me create this first. So let me open the dataset. So inside this, when I open this dataset, it asks me to pass the value for the database name. So here I need to pass the database name. So beside beside this, you can just see I have to create enter the schema name and the table name. So I'm going to create three parameters: one for this database name, one for the schema, and the table name. So inside the dataset, you can see the parameters tab available for you. You can just click on this, click on new parameters. Let me provide us database name, schema name, and also the table name. So let it be all the parameters are string. So inside this, I'm going to pass the dynamic content. I'm going to select the parameter from the dataset level. So let me click on OK, and let me add the schema name over here, and let me add the table name over here. So basically I have created three parameters, one for the schema name, table name, and for the database name. So inside this I will pass the schema name and table name for this dataset, and this database name will be passed to the link to service, and it will be authenticated. So let us get back to the pipeline. So once I have created this dataset with parameters, you can just see it asked me to pass the value for the database name, schema name, and table name. So let it be blank. Let me click on the zinc. I'm going to select a new dataset. Let me click on this Azure Data Storage Gen 2. Click on next. I need as a CSV file. Let me name this as sales 80 product CSV, and I'm going to select the existing linked service available for this. So I'm going to browse the folder under the sample container. Inside this output folder, I'm going to store the file. Let me click on OK. So let me click on none. Let me provide the name as product.csv, and once I have entered this, let me click on none and click on OK. So now I have created a pipeline with a copy activity with the source and sync configuration. So we have parameterized the dataset and the linked service. So now I'm going to parameterize my pipeline. So to parameterize the entire pipeline, you can just click on the blank canvas. So here you can see under the parameters, you can just click on new parameter to create a new parameter. So let me name this as database name, schema name, and finally the table name. So let it be string. So let me get back to the copy activity. So here I am going to pass the database name, schema name, and the table name. So this is going to be the pipeline parameters. So I have created three pipeline parameters. Let me pass this over here. The database name, the schema name, and the table name. So now everything has been parameterized. So I have created three parameters in the pipeline level. So this will be executed. So when I trigger the pipeline, I will pass the value for this three parameters. And once I have passed these parameters, it will get into the source dataset. So inside this source dataset, it will just authenticate the schema name and table name and pass the database name to the linked service. So once it get back to the linked service, it will authenticate the linked service and provide the information about the table, and in the sync it will be loaded as a CSV file inside the ADLS token. So let me just validate this. So there is no validation error. So let us debug this. So once I click on debug, it asks me to pass these parameters. So let me pass the parameters. The database name as sample DB, schema name as sales LD, table name as product. Let me click on OK. So now the pipeline is executing. So the copy activity has been succeeded. You can just click on the explore. So we have read one table with 295 rows, and we have written as CSV file inside the blob storage. So you can just navigate back to the Azure portal. You can get into the ADLS account. So under this data storage, you can navigate to the containers. Under the sample container, inside this output directory, you can see the product.csv that we have loaded recently. So you can just see the data has been loaded as CSV file. So with the help of parameterization, you can just parameterize your pipeline, and you can just parameterize your dataset as well as the linked service as well. So this will helps you to create a single dataset or a single linked service for your dynamic data that you can able to pass during the runtime. So I hope you have understood what is a parameter and how you can able to parameter your pipeline, dataset, and your linked service in Azure Data Factory. Please share this with your friends, and please subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.